Hello people, it is me Russ, off work now and sharing my humble AC/DC collection with you. Welcome to the channel. It's tonight, home from work. You could call this the Tonight Show, right? Does he have some kind of Jimmy Fallon or Johnny Carson? Do they have some kind of copyright on the Tonight Show, really? This is the Tonight Show with Russ Shaw. Welcome. AC/DC. This is a special day for me because in all the weird stuff that you could say about this day in my country's history, I'm focusing on a brilliant artist whose music changed the world. And I'm talking about Malcolm Young. Born on this day, January 6th, 1953. AC/DC, you know, Malcolm Young is not the most known guy in the band, but he was the most influential. If there was no Malcolm Young, there would have been no AC/DC. And this is just such a simple kind of music. Great rock and roll with just a few chords. A lot of critics say, oh, a lot of the music sounds the same. Yeah, it does, because it's rock and roll, and it's just, you know, a few chords. So what? I guess I'm partial because growing up with this band, AC/DC was the first band that was really mine, that I liked for me when I was a kid. And I had a rough childhood, all right? And this music was some of the fond memories that got me through. I was 11 years old when Back in Black came out, and that was when I really started to, oh wow, this is really good music, right? But my dad was very country music. Mom and dad got divorced when I was about 7 years old, and it was pretty traumatic for me as a kid. And you know, my dad remarried right away. My mom had an apartment, and my mom dated a lot of guys. My mom remarried and then divorced and then remarried, so I had a couple of different stepdads. So, you know, there was that going on as well. It was just very turbulent for young Russ Shaw. Going from place to place, moving around, not knowing who authority and value, who really values a young guy like myself at the time. Again, there's a lot of overwhelming, heavy stuff. So, but my mom had Jesus, right? And my dad had country music. So you can kind of see where this is going, right? Like, there was a lot of religion on my mom's side of the family. And my dad he wasn't anti-rock and roll, but he just didn't like it. And if it sounded edgy or something like that, he had his criticisms. And of course, you know, my mom and that whole side of the family with staunch religious attitudes, they weren't gonna like AC/DC. But I really enjoyed AC/DC, and I was gonna like this band. I went through a period in my life where I felt like I needed some confidence, maybe as a young man, and that's what some of that music brought me, you know, as a kid. And I could always go back, put on my headphones, my Walkman at the time, and crank up some AC/DC and just let all that be all that, if you know what I'm saying. And again, I was a young kid, all right? But there's just something about the energy of AC/DC's music that brought me to life and to have some confidence in myself. And some might say this is like some kind of male bravado, egocentric sort of thing. But for me, it really wasn't. It was more like a jump starter, you know? Like this music had energy, power, electricity to it. Which is interesting because I was just watching an interview with Angus Young, and back in the 70s, getting that hard rock sound, the technology to create distortion was in its infancy. To explain, I don't know if you've ever played an electric guitar, plugged an electric guitar into an amp, but without a distortion pedal, it just sounds kind of like an amplified guitar. Like it doesn't have that, you know, the dirty sort of like that Metallica sound, like that, right? Angus said that he had this certain amp that when he took it and turned it all the way up to the max, right? It had a distortion sound before distortion pedals were even a thing. And I thought that was brilliant. And he just, you know, people wanted to, I want that amp, dude. That amp is so great. And maybe that's what it was for me, bringing me back to life from my depression and self-pity as a young man going through the stuff that I went through. Powering up, so to speak, which brings me to the AC/DC collection. And it is a humble collection, all right? There's some other folks out there who I enjoy who have really cool AC/DC collections, and I'm just gonna share with you mine. It's not complete. I still have a lot of albums that I want, but we're gonna get into it. This is in really good condition. Yes, it is a re-release for the US. High Voltage, and this is like from Half Price Books right here, but it's in really good condition. This copy, it's still got the cellophane on it, with the used bookstore sticker. And this is my shirt my lovely wife got me for Christmas. High Voltage. I have many AC/DC shirts, but I really like this album. This album got really bad critics. The music critics, when this album was released, hated it, but the fans loved it. Rolling Stone just lambasted this album like AC/DC's over with. So crazy. It's such a, I like this album, and I remember hearing it as a young man. The Jack Live Wire. Are you kidding me? Live Wire is such a great song. That's another one of those first songs I've heard. It's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll. That was just such a great, like, yeah, just about anything you want to be good at in life. It's a long way to getting to be good at something. Like, there's a lot of wisdom in that song. High Voltage, Little Lover. I want to be a rock and roll singer. Wanna be a rock and roll star. I remember hearing that one. This is probably a re-release because that's pretty cool right there. Join the AC/DC fan club. 18 Weston Close, Bury Street, Edmonds, Suffolk, UK. There's a little blurb from, maybe this is a UK pressing. I don't know. What was I saying about Rock and Roll Singer? Oh yeah, there's that line in Rock and Roll Singer where I got the devil in my ear and he's telling me what to do, and then Bon Scott says, and I'm all ears, and I was like, ooh, that's scary right there. High Voltage, AC/DC, 1976. I don't have 74 Jailbreak. I still really want that album. It's a great album. A lot of good memories with that album. It's their first EP, right? At least here in the States. There's some really cool Australian pressings that I saw. A guy from Scotland who has. I'll put a link to his channel in the description. He doesn't even yet have 1,000 subscribers, but he's got just an immense AC/DC collection. This guy, just really cool. Let There Be Rock. This is a beat copy. Let There Be Rock, AC/DC, and it's like right there. Like I think I got this for like $5 or something like that. But you know, the vinyl itself is in pretty good shape. So I bought it. I like it. I spin it every so often. My wife and I enjoy the AC/DC. 78, they had Power Rage, which I don't have. I would love to have that album as well. It's one of my favorite, next to Highway to Hell, Bon Scott albums. It's really good. Like, I really like that album. Power Rage. But let's talk about the albums I do have. So, Highway to Hell, great album. It was the first time AC/DC really got up there on the U.S. charts with this album. This is an older copy. Highway to Hell. There it is. This is an old beat copy that we got for free. That's right. I was looking all over used record stores for this album. I found one that was about in the same condition that they wanted $25 for. I just wasn't willing to pay that. And but this one we got in a box of records that someone was going to throw in the dumpster. They were just moving, found this box of records. Do you want it? And we were like, oh my God, there's so much good stuff in here, including this Highway to Hell. And here's again another shirt my lovely wife got for me. This is the long sleeve Highway to Hell shirt. It says Highway to Hell on the sleeve right there. And it's funny how, you know, the band was like during the satanic panic of the 80s, you know, this Satan music stands for Acid Christ Devil's Child or something like that. And then you hear later on, you know, interviews with the bands where there's like AC/DC on the back of the sewing machine, or, you know, like different appliances. Had to come up with a name really quick, and we're AC/DC, that's what we are. And I thought that was brilliant. The sewing machine that grandma sewed Angus's schoolboy uniform thing on, you know, AC/DC right on the back. It's on a lot of stuff. And Highway to Hell. So I have 2 copies of this. My lovely wife also got me this. This is a audiophile kind of pressing of Highway to Hell that came later, of course. There's that. This one has the barcode. If you ever want to know how old stuff is, you look for it. See, there's no barcode. In 1979, early 80s, barcodes came along. 82, 81, 80 on some stuff. But anyway, this is a really cool album because it is a 180 gram. It comes with a lot of cool stuff. Came with this sleeve. It's got a lot of cool artwork and the story and stuff like that on it. There's Bon Scott and the guys. There's the original album art from Australia, which is also more like the shirt I'm wearing. So here's the original artwork for Highway to Hell. Yep, the shirt, more like the original Australian pressing right there, right? The European tour, 1979, dates all the way down. And this album is, here's my, I got it at a disc keeper, and it is black, right? Not colored, but that's fine with me. Highway to Hell, very cool. You know, a lot of the songs that refer to hell by AC/DC, you know, like Hell Ain't a Bad Place to Be. If you listen to the lyrics of that song, it's about a relationship. You know, a lot of the guys, they talked about the Highway to Hell, about being in a band. You know, everyone thinks that people just start out as these big rock stars. Like, I got lucky and I became a big rock star, you know, in a band. Like, no, it was hard work for decades. This band went through a lot of different people over the years. Bon Scott was not the original singer of AC/DC. A lot of people don't know that. 3 or 4 different drummers. I don't remember. Different bass players. You know, another thing, I would love to know who the heck are these people? Right? Well, you know, you see Bon Scott on there, of course, and Phil Rudd up in the corner. Is this Malcolm or is this Angus? And who's this guy, right? This guy? I mean, there's a lot of movement in this band over the years. You're not a very good AC/DC fan, Russ, if you don't know who those people are. You know what? Whatever, dude. That's fine with me. I'm not familiar with the names and faces. But I do have this Back in Black, a couple of different copies of this. This is a promotional copy, not found in stores, for radio stations only, produced by Mutt Lange. And here's the shirt, another AC/DC shirt my lovely wife got me for, it's my birthday, or I don't remember, Christmas. But love it, love this album. This is like in the top 4 most sold albums in like human history. It is incredibly successful. Mutt Lange. Was recently watching a thing on Professor of Rock. Have you ever seen his channel? He's like what Scotty Kilmer is to like the automotive world. Professor of Rock is to like the vinyl community and music community. But he had an interview with one of the guys from the Talking Heads, who was talking about they recorded their album the same time in the same studio that this was being recorded, Back in Black. And he said like they recorded a whole like B-side of their album in the same time that Mutt Lange and AC/DC were working hard in the studio all day long, and they came up with a guitar solo and maybe half a song. Like that's how painstakingly, curated and cultivated that this album was. Later on, another big famous producer would produce another album that I'll talk about in a minute. But I've got a couple copies of this. This promotion. It's weird how they don't have white labels. A lot of them have white labels. If you hear your record, like a radio station promo or whatever, and it'll have the tracks on the front. This doesn't have any of that. I'm guessing this has been passed around. It's got a white sleeve, and it's not that sexy of a copy for a radio promo. This one, I have like 3 copies of this. I have another one that we got for free in that big, I'll leave it in the end screen, but my wife and I got like 400 records for free from some guy on OfferUp or Craigslist or one of those, hey, come pick them up. We're like, cool. And one of them was an AC/DC Back in Black copy that smelled like beer. Like seriously, like someone had dipped it in beer and skated around on the floor with it and then put it back in the thing. And, but I don't know, I'll have to play it sometime. We'll see how that sounds. But this one has the sleeve and everything, which is pretty cool. Well, that one's kind of boring. White sleeve. But yeah, there's lots of copies of this out there, I tell you what. But even this right now, like the way vinyl has become so popular, even used copies of Back in Black are geez, selling for like $20 or something like that nowadays. It's crazy. Next on the list, this was the first album I ever plopped down my own money to buy. For Those About to Rock.
What's your favorite?
We Salute You. My favorite?
Because you said you loved that concert.
This concert was amazing. So, is this my favorite AC/DC album? I'm not sure, but the concert was amazing. And there's another shirt. Got me. AC/DC For Those About to Rock. I love this shirt. But this album, this is not the original album that I had purchased as a kid, by the way. I got this used at a used record store later on in life because I lost mine or went through some weird religious thing where I had to go get saved again and purge myself of the devil music, which was ridiculous. But it's just me. When I was a kid, this one has the gatefold, right, with the whole band right there, which is very cool. For Those About to Rock. Now, I went to this concert. Now, I'd been to some other concerts before, but I think my dad took me to like a couple of country concerts. My mom to a gospel concert or something like that. For the life of me, I can't remember what bands we saw. I'm sorry, it just escapes me. But it was like a friend's dad in the neighborhood when I was a kid. Took us to see this this band in a new facility at the time, which is called the Tacoma Dome. It had been recently built back in 1982 or whenever this album came out. I can't remember. And so when that song came out and they rolled out these cannons, and the cannons were like way up, like in the rafters, almost like surrounding us. And it was like a boom for those about to rock. And I swear to God, and maybe I was just a kid or whatever, but other people, like you could see people were visually shook, you know, because you could feel like the shockwave of the sound in your body. Like I could feel this thing like reverberate through my chest and everything, going to see AC/DC for those about to rock. And then they did it again for those about to rock. And you're like bracing yourself. Boom! We salute you. That was a very memorable concert, mostly for that reason. But I saw AC/DC again. Me and my buddy Dave went and saw AC/DC with, who opened for? I can't even remember who opened for AC/DC at the time, but it was I believe it was this Fly on the Wall. It was like 1985. This album, it's actually still on the record player. It's not in here. So we were listening to this last night. My wife and I were rocking some AC/DC in memory of Malcolm Young. I-I-O, shake your foundations. It's probably one of my favorite AC/DC songs right there. But Fly on the Wall, another great AC/DC record in my humble collection. Another one that came out back in '84, Flip of the Switch. Now this is also one I got used, but I bought this when I lived in Alaska. I lived on a naval air station. My dad was Air Force. I went to live with him for a while when my mom was going through some stuff and just couldn't take it anymore. She had me go live with my dad in Adak, Alaska, which is in the Aleutian Islands, by the way. We lived on a naval air station where they trained Marines and Navy people and Navy SEALs and stuff like that. There's no trees on the island, very desolate. This was like 1983, 84, 85. I moved here in 85. But that was an experience, man, because we were closer to mainland Russia than we were to Anchorage on Adak, Alaska. And I remember in the Navy Exchange, which was the store, they had a music area, and this album was pronounced, you know, just a bunch of copies of this record right there on the shelf next to Led Zeppelin Coda, which I believe came out right around the same time, because I remember seeing one of those weird memories that pops up in my brain every so often was AC/DC's Flick of the Switch and Led Zeppelin Coda right there in the Navy Exchange. Also in the Navy Exchange area, there were cigarette machines still back in the day when I was a kid. So you could go to a vending machine and buy cigarettes. Like they wouldn't let kids buy them, but you know, if you could sneak in there when no one was looking, we'd buy packs of smokes, and they were like $1.75 at the time. It was crazy. We would also sneak in the Marine barracks. There was a tunnel that would go to the Marines barracks from like this entertainment thing we called the Hill, and it had a movie theater and roller skating and a little restaurant and ice cream and all this stuff going on. And then you'd go underground to get to the Marine barracks. And just on the other side of that tunnel, there was a cigarette machine and a beer machine. I kid you not. Like you could buy beer out of this machine like you could buy soda pop, you know. You'd like sneak over there with a bag full of change. And fond memories as a young teenager in Adak, Alaska. So we're moving from the vinyl to the CDs part of the collection because it's the CD years. Still listening to AC/DC, but I got a copy of Back in Black on compact disc. You know, I remember back in the day it was like, ooh, it's in a jewel box. Remember me using that term? Jewel box. Look. You know, it's the same. Anyway. And then you had Who Made Who. I remember buying this very copy when it came out of Who Made Who. This was like a soundtrack from a movie, I believe, back in the day. I don't know, maybe not. But a lot of best of hits and a few guitar solo things by Angus Young. This is the only album that has that too. Like, there's no lyrics, there's no voice, there's no singing. It's just, there's two songs. One is called DT, and the other is called Chase the Ace by Angus, Mr. Angus Young there. Blow Up Your Video. That's another great album, which was also, I featured just a few seconds of that starting this video. Heat Seeker, right? The very guitar, voice heavy car song. Song about loving a car, seeking heat, life, and having fun. Joy. Okay, so here's a CD that came out 2000. This is Ball Breaker. And this is probably my most raggedy AC/DC shirt. I think I worked on the car one too many times or spilled too much brake fluid all over it. I don't know. But this is barely hanging on. Anyway, Ball Breaker was produced by Rick Rubin. All right. Now, this guy's a famous producer who produced, probably most recently, Johnny Cash's Comeback, who was produced by Rick Rubin. He's done a lot of stuff over the years. You could Wikipedia him. But Rick Rubin producing this album started in New York. There's a whole like documentary thing, I guess. Rolling Stone wrote a big thing about it. It's just not my favorite AC/DC album. For a guy who's, you know, got the credentials to produce music, it's just, I don't know, man. It's just okay. Rick Rubin, but yeah, that's my most recent AC/DC album. I do want Power Up. I want to get that album. I do like it. It warmed up to me, you know. I was sad about Malcolm Young, but then I heard that this thing is falling off me. He, you know, a lot of it's his stuff that he wrote. All right, this is kind of uncomfortable, actually. It's more of a shop rag at this point than a shirt. The DVD collection, plug me in. My wife and I were watching this last night. We watched this for hours, and all we got through was the Bon Scott side. So there's 2 DVDs in here, just a bunch of different concert footage and interviews. A lot of those interviews are on YouTube now, but this is really cool. Plug me in. A lot of really neat exclusive stuff in here. Not all of it's on YouTube, but a lot of it is. A lot of it is. This is really cool. Plug me in. And speaking of powering up, I did not get Power Up when it came out on vinyl. I was going to, but it just sold out on vinyl really quickly. But on Record Store Day, and here's another thing. Speaking of regrets, now the AC/DC album that I almost had regrets over not buying because it came up on Record Store Day. There was only 5,000 of these released here in the US market, and I hemmed and hawed about it. I've never been a big fan of picture discs, but here it is. I'm a big AC/DC fan, you know, quasi collector, right? And I just never been impressed with the sound of picture discs. Usually because they're made of plastic and not vinyl, or they have some kind of skin over them. So they don't usually sound very good. But this is a big 45, and it actually doesn't sound bad. We put it on our turntable after we bought it, and I'm like, hey, that ain't too bad at all. It only has 2 songs on it, Through the Mists of Time and Witch's Spell. But yeah, there's the band in a retro, circular, I don't know, retro fisheye lens, you know, straight up and down. Marshall stacks, look at that. And then I got the band on the back here. But yeah, so that's my last AC/DC purchase. right here on Record Store Day. But well, I didn't get it on Record Store Day. So, speaking of regrets, passed it up on Record Store Day in June when it was released. Saw it again a couple of times at Record Store Day, the second release in July. Didn't get it. And then there was some other stuff on my list for July that I didn't get. And I was gonna get the picture disc because I would regret not getting it if it sells out and I didn't get it. Only 5,000 copies in the U.S. I mean, I'm on the Record Store Day website. That's what it says. So there's one copy left when we went to Silver Platters in Bellevue after Record Store Day. It was like in August or September or something like that, just before we went to Arizona. And this was there, and it was just a sign that I had to get it because it was the last copy at Silver Platters in Bellevue. So, and that's it. Thanks for watching, and subscribe if you're new. There's a lot going on here on the channel. I think you might enjoy it. What's your favorite AC/DC album? Do you have a collection and AC/DC memory of yours? Leave comments in the description and like this video. It helps us out a ton, especially if you made it this far. Like, you earned it. It's like a badge of honor. Hit the like button. and it's like your digital tattoo or something. AC/DC tattoo. I don't know. Thanks for watching. My name is Russ Shaw. Till the next one, I'll see you then. Bye.